Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant, and welcome back for more of Let's Play Pokémon SoulSilver. Last time we made our way over to Cherrygrove City, picked up the running shoes, and healed up our Totodile, so this time we're going to be setting out for our first adventure. Or second adventure. City of Fragrant Flowers. Fragrant! Wascally Wabbit. But, of course, before we leave, we have to talk to every single NPC. Yes, every single NPC. Collect all the badges. I suppose that's what we're going to be doing in this game. But we won't find out what badges are until we make our way over to the next city. No kidding, he's full of energy and high speed. Hot damn, this man must be some sort of athlete or something. What happened to your Pokemon, by the way? When you get older and you're no longer a trainer, what do you do with them? Do you release them all or something? But he does have some pretty important words to tell us, such that we can only hold 6 Pokemon at a time, but we can store as many as we like in the PC. Although there is a limit to how many you can have in the PC, unless you're going for more than all 493 Pokemon there were to this point in the 4th generation, you should be fine. And I would know, because I played a ROM hack of Heart Gold that enabled you to catch almost all the 493 there were, and I still had a spare box, so unless you plan on having more than 500 some odd Pokemon, there is plenty of space in your PC, you shouldn't worry about it. And let's see what the Pokemart has to offer us. Unfortunately, they're not going to be selling anything we can use to catch wild Pokemon at this point. You can stock up on potions if you like. 5 is more than enough for me. Although I am a little bit afraid of being paralyzed or poisoned, so I'll pick up some antidotes and paralysis heals. But generally, you shouldn't really have to worry about paralysis either. In fact, poisoning shouldn't be a threat to you if you're playing gold instead of silver. So let's talk to you guys. I almost forgot to talk to you guys. And that's precisely why I got antidotes. How about you? They'll get more when I deliver the thing I need to deliver. Aw, Crunch, you're so adorable. Despite the fact that you have really big fangs and I don't want you to bite me and crunch me. But before we leave, it's the guide again! And the one thing that everybody forgets about in the 2nd generation, at least I did, and I'd like to think that I'm not the only stupid person in the world. He adds the map card to our Pokegear, and this is probably one of the most helpful uses of the Pokegear in the game. It shows you a map of the entire area. You can move around, you can check out all the cities, it even has all the names of the places that we're going to be going as well. And you can even mark your map if you're so inclined with the Y button, and you can write little messages about the place I'm not going to bother with because there's no reason for me to. And I'd never go back to this afterwards. But it's a nice feature to have so you can remember what's where if you feel like checking it out. But enough dawdling! Up to Route 30 we go! And a SoulSilver exclusive, Ladybug. You can only find this in the silver versions, and only in the morning. Although, it's nothing to write home about. Really, it's one of the weakest Pokemon in the game. Not the weakest, in fact, there is one Pokemon in this game that's exceptionally weak that we'll run into a little bit later on. Which is surprisingly not a bug type. But rest assured, I won't be using it either. Even though it is pretty cute. I've always wanted to try using a Ladybug. But since I've never played a Silver game before, I've never given any thought to it, because I never had it available to me. Now, on the overworld, you'll see Pokeballs, and more often than not, these are items for you to pick up. And you look like a bug catcher. Yeah, they really do make me feel like I'm flying. But they attract the attention of trainers. Of course they do. And look, another one of those apricorn things that we can't put in our bag for some stupid reason. And we can't progress forward until we talk to this man. How in the world can you be so oblivious to my eye-catching howls? Do I really need to explain why we shouldn't be following this man into his home if he stops us from passing it by? I mean, aren't most RPGs chastised for just allowing the hero to walk into other people's houses and take their stuff? And here, they're just outright telling us, no, you should be doing that, how dare you think otherwise? But now we have an apricorn box, which we need to put apricorns in. It doesn't make sense, but now we can get apricorns, and they have two uses in the game. One is useful, the other one isn't really. But I'll be covering both of them. At least I hope to cover both of them. I haven't yet found a way to cover this second use. Although I can show it off. There's no point in me talking about things so mysteriously. But as you saw when we were fighting, our moves have a limited number of uses, so unless we go to heal up our Pokemon after they use their move that many times, they won't be able to use it anymore. And there's apparently a big battle going on over here, so we can't go through there yet. We have to go up to Mr. Pokemon's house! And there are two ways to go, both of them have the same amount of grass, and I am not running into anything. This is amazing. I'd like to get more experience, but I mean, it's really nice if the game is going so well this early and I don't run into things very often. Mr. Pokemon's house, how do you feel, Pokemon of mine? Okay, you go on in, I'll follow you in, Totodile. Totodile. Okay, I'll go in. Hey, it's Mr. Pokemon! Ah, so you were. Ooh, a mystery egg. Famous Professor Elm. Well, it's a shame we won't be meeting him anytime soon. Free in! And look who sneaks up on us while we're sleeping! I'm not surprised. It's the famous Professor Oak! How are you doing, buddy? You must have waited a long time. Come to think of it, when did they know I'm of age to be a Pokemon trainer? When did they decide that? How old am I? Why am I asking you these questions? Sure, I'll help you. And we get ourselves a Pokedex that will record all of our encounters with other Pokemon to this point. But Professor Oak's going to head over to Goldenrod so he can... Everybody gives me their phone number. You know, I'm actually surprised you haven't given me your phone number yet. Oh well. It's time to head back. Really getting bothered with phone calls already? Disaster? Well, what could have happened if you're saying, oh no? But let's show off the Pokedex. Since we've only seen a few Pokemon to this point, if you've caught them, it'll appear as solid here, give you information on the Pokemon. You can find the cry, details, where you can find it, when you can find it, day, morning, night. If it has alternate forms, those will show up as well. The Pokedex is actually fairly descriptive in this generation. I'm kind of surprised. So it's neat to check out if you haven't seen it before. But most of the other Pokedexes earlier on from previous generations are not as interesting to look at. And I think after this route, if I start running into Pokemon multiple times, I'll just cut out the wild encounters, because there's no reason for me to show these. And for the most part, if I'm going through an area the first time, I won't be using repels. I'll be running into as many Pokemon as I can just for the experience. Unless the experience isn't worth it. But there are a couple of other Pokemon we can run into here that I'd like to show off if I can, so I'll take the... well, I won't take the long way around, because we don't necessarily need the experience right now. And we can jump down these ledges, so we don't have to go through the grass. Which is very, very nice of them. And since we only took 2 damage, I'm not too worried. Let's just head back to New Bark. Oh, you were the dude that was looking in the professor's lab before. Wimp? Good Pokemon. What are you talking about? Who is this guy? Apparently the game doesn't know either. And he stole one of Elm's Pokemon! What's he doing with that? Now, since this is a grass type, it's going to be resistant to our water attacks, so we're going to want to stick with our normal Scratch. And luckily for us, Chikorita doesn't know any grass moves at this point, so it won't be able to use any super effective moves against us that would be more powerful than normal attacks. However, now that it's lowering our attack power, Scratch is going to do a little bit less. And this is what trainer battles are like, except they won't all have this awesome music. This is one of my favorite tracks in the game, really. And if you keep knocking down my attack, I'm starting to think Water Gun may do more damage. It won't do much, but at this point it does as much as Scratch does, since our attack was lowered 2 stages. And we gain enough experience to grow to level 8! We're getting some pretty good stat increases, all that considered. And we learned a new physical attack, Rage. Yes, I'm very happy I won, because if I lose, you take half my money. Seriously, that's what happens. Do you know who I am? Sure you are. Wait, what? I didn't take it from you. Wait, what? Okay, convenient plot device that lets us pick his name. Ah, I would be too. It's always good to stop and smell the roses once in a while. What if there aren't any roses? Smell the petunias? Smell the sunflowers? Can you smell sunflowers? What does sunflowers smell like? Never bothered smelling a sunflower. I don't imagine there's any reason for you to. Let's go see Professor Elm. I'm sure he's very distraught over all of this. Yes, I can see that. That's why I came back. Why would they do that? Why would I come back? Are all policemen really this stupid? Yes, listen to the girl that just came running into our defense for no reason. And yes, we did happen to get his name. Now, only one person is going to understand why I'm naming my rival this name. But it's a... I wouldn't exactly call it a joke, but it's something that I've been doing since the very early days of Pokemon. And if he is watching, I hope you get more enjoyment out of this than I do. Which isn't really saying much. Yeah, it's kind of funny that you just come running in and all of a sudden they think I'm innocent. That's kind of silly. Oh well, they're stupid. I don't mind. Right, we had to give you the egg, didn't we? Yes, it's an egg. I don't know what all this stuff about eggs is about, though. Especially considering after the first generation, we had no idea what eggs were, so this was actually a pretty big deal. But yes, Professor Oak knows a lot about us, and has a lot of confidence in us, I suppose. So yes, that's going to be the entire point of this game, defeating all the gym leaders and defeating the Elite Four and becoming champion of the world of Pokemon. So yes, we'll be heading over to Violet City to challenge its gym leader before too long. And unfortunately, we can't take Cyndaquil. I don't see any thick glass. Do you see any thick glass? You don't either. We can stop a Pokemon from evolving by pressing B. We have no idea what that means! You have more potions for me. No, those are the only free potions in the game. That kinda stinks. And in Gold and Silver, you actually had to check your PC to get those out. But it's nice that you have unlimited bag space in this remake, as opposed to Gold and Silver, where you had limited bag space, so you can only keep so many items with you. Now, this is not a crucial moment in the game, but it's a fairly big decision because you can't change this decision unless you travel back to New Bark Town, and at least for the first third of the game or so, that'll be nearly impossible to do. I prefer to have Mom save money, and by choosing this option, a quarter of the money that you earn in all of your battles will be sent back to Mom. But she'll eventually start buying you items and stuff that you can pick up at the Pokemon Marts, which is fairly nice. Some of the things she can send you are very, very helpful, but most of the time they won't be. But before we head back to Cherrygrove, Lyra's going to show us something very important. How to use a Pokeball, which will help us get new friends. Wow, that was easy. No, if only the tutorial really was that fast. But bear with me, this is the only tutorial-ish thing in the game, which takes forever, but still, you can sit through it. Basically, the idea here is, unlike most other RPGs where you're scripted to get certain other team members, in Pokemon you can pretty much pick your party to be whatever you want it to be. So if you run into a Pokemon in the wild that you really want to have on your team, you can go into your bag, select Pokeballs, and throw one at it. And depending on how much health it has left and what its catch rate is, among a couple of other important deciding factors, you may or may not be able to catch it in the ball. And if you do, it becomes your own. And you can use it to do your bidding! And take over the world! If you really feel like it. I don't, because I'm not in the mood to. Oh, the world, you can thank me for not being in the mood to take you over later. And she gives us 5 free Pokeballs, and now the Mart will start selling Pokeballs. But they're stored in here. Pokeballs, standard, just throw them at the Pokemon. For the most part, a lot of the Pokemon that you'll be running into at this point have fairly high catch rates. And what that means is the Pokemon will be pretty easy to catch, so you may not even have to weaken them. But it's generally a good idea to weaken them, because if you do weaken them, then you have a higher chance of catching them. It's based on a percentage of their max HP. The lower that percentage, the higher a chance you have to catch it. But a lot of the Pokemon early on have a high enough catch rate that if you throw a Pokeball at it and they're of a low enough level that it should almost never fail. And guess who I'm going to be using on my team? Damn straight. Sentret. Now, a lot of people will realize that Sentret is a fairly underwhelming Pokemon. He's normal, there isn't much interesting about him, but he can be a fairly nice member of your team, which is why I'm going to be naming him Duster! How do you feel, Duster? Yeah, whenever I catch a new party member, I'll just show off his stats, or her stats, depending on what his or her gender is. Hello, Duster! Aww. Now, before we head back to Cherrygrove and end off the episode, there is one place we can check out up north here, which I didn't explore before. And since we can't climb up the ledges, we can't go anywhere up here, really. The only thing you can find up here is a section of grass that'll allow you to access a couple of new Pokemon that we haven't seen yet. And I suppose I'll try to get into a few battles with them here. The first one we can find is Geodude, Rock Ground type, since the first generation, one that I used in Fire Gold, Fire Red, believe it or not. Graveler. Oh, good old Graveler. And he wouldn't be a bad member to pick up at this point, since he'll be a very big asset in the upcoming 2 gyms. And I may pick one up just for the sake of having someone to use Rock Smash. But in the meantime, I'll just save him until later. See if we can find the other one I'm looking for. There we are. Spearow! Now, unlike Pidgey, Spearow only... he's fairly powerful. I think he has a higher base attack than Pidgey does, and may or may not be faster. I know his evolved form definitely is. I've never tried using one, though. But since it's level 2, it's no match for us. And Crunch gained another level! Now to explain what I've been doing here, having Sentret lead and then bringing in Totodile. If I have Sentret lead, and then bring Totodile in to finish off the job, since Sentret isn't strong enough to do it on its own, Sentret gets half the experience. And this is generally the way you'll want to train up your less powerful Pokémon. I think the technical term for it is switch training. Now, there will be, maybe a third of the way later on, there will be a much easier way to train up your less powerful Pokémon. But for now, this is the best way to go. And I would like Duster to get a couple of levels in before we go on to the next area, because he'll be a very big asset since Crunch will have a type disadvantage. So I'd like to get him a few levels before we go there. Now, since we finally have that Apricorn box, what we can do is head over here and finally get that Apricorn out of the tree! So let's go get that Apricorn. It's another green one, just like the one we found in front of the Apricorn dude's house. And that's probably going to do it for this episode. Next time, we'll head further north from Cherrygrove City and see if we can make it to Violet. This is UniversalGiant, and Sentret's feeling a little dizzy, so I'll go heal him up and meet you outside here next time.